Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
I'm at a loss for words. I don't even know what to say. Other than that officially, to this point here on June 17th, 2025, is the absolute worst loss of the season for the New York Mets. This game had every agonizing, fingernail ripping off, finger by finger type of Atlanta Braves horror show feel to it that I've seen over my 30 years of being a New York Mets fan. That was horrific, horrifying, absolutely just mind-numbingly painful. I cannot believe what just happened. The Mets lose this opener to the Braves by a final of 5-4 after leading most of the way by a 4-1 score, with David Peterson twirling an absolute gem heading into the 8th inning, a strike away from getting out of a bases loaded, no one out jam, only to lose 2 innings later, seemingly 25 minutes later, by a final of 5-4. Wow, my goodness. I am in shock. I am absolutely just dead inside right now. This is unreal. Guys, I'm Tony Metro. What's up? If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. I do daily Mets content. We do post-game recaps every single day after every single Mets game, even terrible, horrible, ugly ones like tonight. I just can't believe what just happened. Be sure to leave this stream a like. It really goes a long way toward helping out the channel. And you can check me out on all my other platforms, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. All the links to those are in the description below. Let's get into it immediately here. We got our boy Nico. What's up, my man? Yo, what's up? I'm not happy. That was just sad. No doubt about it. That is one of the worst losses I've seen in a long time. Absolutely is the worst loss of 2025 so far when you consider the opponent, when you consider the Mets entered this game on a 3-game losing streak, when you consider the score and the juncture and way everything went down in the 8th inning, and when you consider that this is a very important streak for the Mets right now that they're about to begin. A 10-game stretch where they have 3 here with the Braves in Atlanta. Then they go on the road and play Philly for 3 more. And then Atlanta comes right back to Citi Field next week for a 4-game series. This is, without a doubt, when you consider all those circumstances, easily the worst loss of the season. I am just kind of in shock. I mean, the only silver lining to any of this is that the Phillies lose tonight, so the Mets don't lose a game to them, but they also let a golden opportunity of gaining a game go right through their hands. And by the way, the Braves gain a game. They're still 12 back, but you think the Braves aren't feeling pretty stoked after that W? Like, same old Mets. Last year when they won that game 1 of the doubleheader and 161, that didn't mean anything. The Mets have not exercised the demons of Atlanta. That's very clear after this game. I mean, I am just beside myself. It is a truly horrific loss. It is exactly like we have seen in Atlanta so many times, year after year. You can change the players, you can change the uniforms, you can change the manager, you can change the owner. Something about the Mets playing ball in the city of Atlanta, or even in the outskirts of Atlanta where they now play their new stadium, the Mets just are always sucked into a death trap. Unbelievable, horrible loss for the Mets. Let's get into it. The Mets get on the board in the first inning. Juan Soto with the solo shot, and then just an inning later, a bloop double from Tyrone Taylor with 2 outs that Ronald Acuna very nearly dives and makes a brilliant catch on. I thought he caught it, and then it turns out he didn't. 2-run score. I'm thinking in my head, oh my God, the breaks are going the Mets' way down in Atlanta. No way. Mets are leading 3-0. David Peterson is looking terrific, gets into a little bit of a jam there, gives up a 2-out run, 3-1, but doesn't let the house of cards fall in on him, able to get out of that. And then from there was just pretty much rock solid, tossing up zeros. The Mets get that run back on a Tyrone Taylor homer. He has 3 RBIs in this game. They're leading 4-1 in this ball game. And then comes the 8th inning. David Peterson, who again was pitching absolutely brilliant in this one, sent out there to try to go for 8 innings after pitching a complete game shutout his last time out against the Washington Nationals. And everything starts to go wrong. He gives up a leadoff walk to the 9 batter, then a base hit from Ronald Acuna, then another base hit to Alex Verdugo. Okay. Bases loaded, nobody out. So the Mets go to Reed Garrett, and he does a really good job. He gets a first pitch pop out, and then he gets another out, and we're thinking the Mets might get through this. He got through Olsen, and now it's Marcell Ozuna, who is a scumbag. Like, we all know this. Marcell Ozuna is a total scumbag, a wife beater, drives drunk. He's a scumbag. Shouldn't even be in baseball. If Trevor Bauer's not in baseball, Marcell Ozuna shouldn't be in baseball. And that's for anyone that has committed any horrific crime like those people have. I'm just saying, not just because he beat us tonight. I have always stood on that, and I will always die on that hill. If one person gets in trouble for that and can't play baseball in Major League Baseball, then none of them should be able to be. Besides the point, 2 outs, 2 strikes, a centimeter from striking out Marcell Ozuna, just barely gets a piece of his bat on it to foul it away. And the very next pitch, a bases clearing double down the left field line, and it's a 4-4 ball game. And I mean, if you're a Mets fan, you know at that point, you just know there's no way they are not winning this game. We have seen this horror movie so many times, and especially down there in Atlanta. And unfortunately, the pain got even worse than that. I thought that would be the worst moment in this game when Ozuna gets the game-tying double in the 8th. But no, we go to the top of the 9th. Juan Soto with a leadoff single, and Pete hits a ball 370 feet to right field that off the bat I'm thinking is gone. It's looking like a replay of his homer in Milwaukee last year. And Acuna, who just missed on that brilliant diving catch earlier on in the game on Tyrone Taylor's double, leaps 5 feet in the air, it seems, and makes a brilliant catch. Juan Soto, nowhere to be near first base, is doubled off, and then you definitely know the Mets are losing this game. Goes to extra innings, though. Diaz with the 1-2-3 ninth, thinking, okay, Mets scratch across 2 as the away team with this new ghost runner rule and extra innings in baseball. You got to score 2 if you're the away team, right? Pfft. I'm sorry. Why is Jared Young on this team? Number 1. Number 2, why is Jared Young taking at bats in the extra innings of a game against your division rival that has owned your franchise for years? Explain that to me. The meekest of at bats I have seen in a long time. A 3-pitch strikeout from Jared Young. Francisco Alvarez falls behind 0-2, works it to 3-2, and then pops out, slams his bat again. More on Alvarez later. And then a pop out from Ronnie Mauricio, who is clearly way too overwhelmed by Major League pitching and needs to get sent down to AAA as soon as possible. 1, 2, 3, the meekest of attempts from the Mets to score in the 10th inning there. And you go to the bottom of the 10th. You got Brazaban on. They intentionally walk Acuna first and second. And he gets a first pitch pop out from Verdugo. You're a ground ball from getting it to the 11th now. There's a shot. Oh, that's when Francisco Alvarez has a ball go by him. And instead of running the runner back to second base, who is hung up, throws the ball down to second. The runner takes third. Alvarez is a mess right now. It was only at the plate for a while there. Now he's taking it out to the field with him. We will talk more about Alvarez later, but I am on record as of this moment. Francisco Alvarez needs to go back to AAA right now. Call up Hayden Sanger. He did a fine job as a backup the first month and a half of the season. If the Mets really care about getting Alvarez right and him ever living up to even a little piece of what we expected him to be when he was a top prospect in baseball, do what's right for him and send him back down to AAA because he is a mess right now in every possible way. First and third doesn't matter. 4-pitch walk to Matt Olson, and the very next pitch to Austin Riley is nuked to center field. Give credit to Tyrone Taylor, makes a terrific catch on it. Doesn't matter. 400 foot out to center field. It's a sac fly, and the Braves win this 5-4. I've seen so many of these and they never hurt less. I mean, that's the truth. When you're a big fan, like we all are, they never hurt less, but some of them do hurt a little bit more. This one, given the circumstances I laid out before, probably makes it hurt the most. The 4-1 lead going into the 8th inning. David Peterson working on another absolute masterpiece of a game against the Braves team that is 8 games under 500 and looks totally lifeless tonight. A chance to start this 10-game stretch against the 2 chief opponent rivals in the National League East. And for it to all just explode in the Mets' face the way that it did is absolutely mind-numbing. I cannot believe it. Earl Daly says Marte should have gotten that at bat. It could have been Marte. It could have been Brett Beatty. Hell, I would have even put Luis Torrens in there. It could have been anybody. And you leave Jared Young in there to hit? I don't get that at all. I don't get why Jared Young is on the roster, period. Never mind why he is getting an at-bat in the most crucial spot of the game, of a game that you just let fall through your fingertips. If you don't score at least 2 runs there in that 10th inning, you're not winning on the road. You're not. I don't know what Carlos Mendoza was thinking there. And I also got to get on Mendoza. He sends David Peterson out there for the 8th, which I was fine with. It was the 9, 1, and 2 hitters. Bad by Peterson for walking the 9 hitter. But then Mendoza didn't have anybody getting loose and warming up in the bullpen. So Reed Garrett came in kind of cold. And maybe it didn't affect him because he looked pretty sharp. He got the first 2 outs of that inning. He was a strike away from getting out of the jam and getting Ozuna. But I just think that Mendoza dropped the ball today. Mendoza did not manage this game well for those 2 reasons. Not having somebody ready to go in the 8th at the first sign of trouble for David Peterson, and then letting Jared Young hit for himself in the 10th inning. I just don't understand it. I just can't believe it. It's a horrible loss for the New York Mets tonight. I mean, what else can you say? They looked really good for the first couple, 7.5 innings of this game, right? I mean, Peterson was twirling a gem, had that 1 inning of trouble, managed to only allow 1 run to score. The Mets played some pretty solid defense. You had 4 runs on the board early, and it all fell apart in the final half hour of this game. I'm beside myself, if you can't tell. What is your guys' main, who are you most putting this game on? That's what I want to ask. I don't want to ask for your main takeaway. Who are you most putting this loss on? For me, it's hard because David Peterson's the one that loaded the bases. Reed Garrett nearly gets out of it, but in the end, he's the one that gives up the game-tying double. Then you have Juan Soto getting doubled off of first base on Pete Alonso's fly out to right field. Then you have Francisco Alvarez in the 10th having that pass ball advance a runner instead of throwing to third or running him down and getting potentially the second out of that inning. It was just an absolutely chaotic loss on so many different people. There are a lot of different faces you could blame for this one. And in the end, we suffer the most as fans. Oof. Let me take a look at some of these stats here, guys. This is a really, really bad night. A really, really bad one for sure. You have a chance to, like I said, start this game, this little streak off with the Braves on it and the Phillies on a really good foot, and it looked like you were coasting the whole way, and then all of a sudden it just completely falls out from under you. So let's take a look at some of the numbers here. Let's get to the box score. Leading off, you had Lindor. He was hitless in this one, including 2 strikeouts. And, my main takeaway from this game, other than Peterson pitching so well, I'm sorry the stream is looking like crap right now. I don't know why at the moment. I apologize for that. I'm putting the blame on Mendoza. Yeah, I hear you on that. Mendoza definitely deserves some blame, Stanley. What's up, my man? How you doing? Appreciate you hopping in. Nico says, I don't like Jared Young. I think he's just not ready for the MLB yet. No, Nico, here's the thing about Jared Young. He's never been an MLB player. Like, he was playing in Korea for the last couple years. So, this is a journeyman that the Mets were taking a flyer on that we thought we'd stash away in AAA. The fact he's been getting as many MLB plate appearances as he is right now is a total insult to Mets fans and our intelligence. I I don't know that there's a better option just out there on the street, but there's got to be something better either in AAA or, some type of cash trade that they can make with the team. But Jared Young should not be on the big league roster, never mind getting at bats in the 10th inning of a game that you just blew and desperately don't want to lose. Okay, so I don't get it. And that's where I'm with you, Stanley. That's why I blame a lot of this game on Carlos Mendoza. Not having someone ready in the pen, the immediate first sign of danger for David Peterson in the 8th inning there, and then letting Jared Young hit for himself are two inexcusable decisions by the Mets skipper. He 100% deserves some blame in this. Nico says, I didn't do my homework on him, so I don't know anything about him. Oh, about Young. No, it's all good, man. No, he's a guy that played in Korea the last 2 years. Like, he does not belong in the big leagues, and he's taking an at-bat there in the 10th inning. Like, hello? Brett Beatty had his little groin thing. I think it was on Saturday. They said he's day-to-day and he's okay. It's now 3 days later. There was a rest day yesterday. So either Beatty was or was not available. What's the deal? Like, if he's not, then tell us. And if he's not, then make a different roster move and put him on the injured list, because Jared Young should not be getting at-bats there. And if he wasn't available, Brett Beatty, then go to Starling Marte. I don't care that it's a right-hander and Iglesias on the mound. Marte's been hitting the ball lately, even against righties. How you could have him up there to hit just makes no sense to me. And this is all after the fact that the Mets completely blew this game in the 8th inning, with Peterson loading the bases and with Garrett giving up the 2-out, 2-strike double to Ozuna. But there was still a chance, just not with that part of the order. Let's go to Francisco Alvarez now, because I just watched him speak to the media, and it's time Alvarez goes down to AAA. He is so messed up in the head right now. And at first it was just his hitting. His at-bats at the plate were more and more concerning. And we were thinking, well, he needs a little bit of time still to get used to MLB pitching again. He was just out because of that surgery on his hamate bone in his hand. And then it started to trickle into defensive things, but mostly little things, a couple pass balls here and there. Now it's just full-blown that Francisco Alvarez is a disaster. He needs to go back to AAA at this point. And I say this for two reasons. Number one, Francisco Alvarez is not going to develop at the big league level playing the way he is right now. He has a mental break right now. And the best thing the Mets can do is send him to AAA. You need to prioritize this guy's development if there is even a possibility of doing that at this point in his career. Because right now, this is by far the worst that we have ever seen Alvarez, both at the plate and behind it. And he cost them big time tonight, specifically in that 10th inning. I can't put his lone at-bat on him for the reason they didn't score a run there in the top of the 10th. But another pop out on a 3-2 pitch. And then in the bottom half, that pass ball, not running toward the runner that was hung up between second and third, or throwing it to third base to keep him from advancing, allows him to go right to third, changes the entire game plan, potentially gets rid of cutting down the second out of the inning and the winning run. Francisco Alvarez needs to go back to AAA. I have seen enough. Hayden Sanger did a fine job for the first month and a half of the season as a backup. The Mets will be in good hands with him to make a start once a week. Luis Torrens has been terrific. He's been hitting into some bad luck, but the defense is never a liability with him. If you want to salvage anything that is left of Francisco Alvarez potentially still becoming a star or at least a very good player in this league, the Mets need to do what is right by him and send him down to AAA. It's time. It's time. I've seen it. I've seen enough. He's a mess. Oh, boy. All right, let's see. James, I told my wife I'm leaving her. I'm not going to work tomorrow. James, you told me the other day you were drinking because the Mets lost, and now you're leaving your wife. My man, you're going through it, and so are all we. I feel that, bro. I feel that. I would not want to go to work tomorrow either, and I'm with you, bro. Stanley says, I agree. There should have been a reliever in ready to replace Peterson. And like that's only part of the puzzle. And I do stand by that. But Reed Garrett, even coming in probably a little cold because he only got up like maybe 5 minutes before he got put in the game, actually did get the first 2 outs of that inning. And he was a strike away from getting Ozuna. Ozuna barely gets a piece of that ball to foul tip it away and keep the at-bat going. And then the next pitch hits one in on the hands and just punches it over Mauricio's head down the third base line into the corner for a 3-run double. I mean, it wasn't even a bad pitch. I can't even be mad at Reed Garrett. So Mendy definitely not being prepared in my opinion. James says, F everything. Yep, with you there, bro. With you there. Earl Daly, I agree. We love Alvarez, but enough is enough. And Irv Wallace says, all facts. Look, I love Alvy. I still think there's something in there, but right now he is not right in the head. And I would hate to send him to AAA, especially because he just had his firstborn last week, but he's just not right. He is not right, and it's hurting the team. It's no longer like, oh, well, we're winning and Alvarez is, just hopefully still developing. No, it's Alvarez is going backwards and the Mets are losing. So we need to figure out one of those things. And in my opinion, the best solution to fixing Alvarez and getting the Mets a better chance to win every ball game is starting Luis Torrens and putting Francisco Alvarez back down in AAA for a month. Bring up Hayden Sanger. He was fine for the first month and a half of the season. It's time to do it. It's time to do it. D-Rails, bro, I'm right. He called this. D-Rails was on it. You called this, bro. Long time ago about Francisco Alvarez. I was hesitant about it. At this point, he's been up for 2 months and he is not hitting. And now his defense is a complete mess. And he's not the only one. Fortunately, Mark Vientos began a rehab assignment this week. I don't know if it was today. I don't know when the Syracuse Mets were playing, but he's doing a rehab assignment with Syracuse. So hopefully Vientos gets back. I mean, hard to believe that the way he was hitting for this first month and a half of the season, right? But we need him back because Ronnie Mauricio is so overwhelmed at the big league level right now. And I don't blame him because the dude hasn't played ball in a year and a half. So, I get it, but he's got to go. He's got to go. You can't have a guy coming up to the plate that you just pretty much automatically assume is not going to get a base hit, is not going to put up a competitive at-bat. And tonight, the Mets end up having 3 of those in the bottom of their order with Mauricio, with Alvarez, and with Jared Young. It's just not acceptable for what you hope is a top division team, for a first place 20 games over 500 type of ball club. Now, by the way, 17 games over 500 after this 4-game slide. Not the way you wanted to start this 10-game stretch with the Braves and with the Phillies. I am very upset by this. James says that throw was low effort, cannot do that crap. Hitting so crappy off speed. Yeah. Mauricio's just, he's not ready for the big leagues. He's not ready. It's been a year and a half since the dude played baseball, and I get it. But once they knew that that Vientos needed a rehab assignment, that the hamstring thing was a little more serious than we kind of thought. We thought maybe day to day. That's when they should have been like, all right, we can't keep Mauricio up this entire time. I'm glad he got his feet wet, but it's time to go back to the sandbox because Mauricio is clearly overwhelmed. And I don't want the same thing to happen to him that has apparently happened to every other one of the Mets' big prospects. Brett Beatty, Alvarez, Luis Angel Acuna to a degree. These guys have been brought up perhaps a little earlier than the Mets should have given them the call in the big leagues. And what have the baby Mets done to this point? Brett Beatty's a complete bust. Doesn't even get the pinch hitting appearance tonight. Luis Angel Acuna has really been disappointing. You got Francisco Alvarez, who we're talking about sending back to Syracuse. It's time to really examine this roster because there's a lot of things that they need to fix around the margins if they want to be a first place team for much longer. They're fortunate the Phillies lost today. It would have been cut down to 1.5. It would have meant that the Mets had lost 4.5 games to the Phillies in the standings since last Friday. They are not going down the cliff yet. But it's getting a little closer. It's within vision, especially with the next 9 games coming against the Braves and the Phillies. It ain't too far away if the Mets don't start playing some better baseball. All around. Stanley Babbage, when Vientos returns, it should be a DH. I guess that's the move. But then start Brett Beatty at third, I guess is the exchange decision on that one. I'd be okay with that at this point. I don't think Mauricio's clearly going to AAA. So I guess that's probably the move is Vientos at DH and Beatty at third. It's probably the best thing the Mets can do right now. D-Rose, and he was laughing in the dugout. That burned me. He was laughing you're talking about Alvarez, right, D-Rose? He was laughing in the post-game presser too. Not like immediately, but he was chuckling at something. I didn't hear the exact question and exchange, but yeah, I'm pretty pissed about seeing that too. You've been playing with your head up your ass for the last month and a half. You just cost the team a huge base right there that eventually would bring home the tying run or the game-winning run. You haven't hit a lick since you got called back up, and you barely did anything last year. Get your... I am so messed up right now. This loss, guys. I am so messed up. Guys, if you're new, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. Also, leave this stream a like. Really goes a long way toward keeping things going over here. Really, really do appreciate that all. Let's see. Irv Wallace. Oh, my God. Don't let me talk about Young. Why wasn't Marte at DH? Yeah, I mean, Swellenbach, the righty on the mound. Dude, I don't care about righty-lefty matchups when it comes to Jared Young. There is nothing you can tell me that makes me believe Jared Young should be on this roster. Never mind getting starts for this team. Not righty-lefty matchups, not this guy played Little League with the opposing pitcher, or that this guy, has 5 home runs against the other pitcher. No, I don't care. Jared Young is not a Major League Baseball player. Jared Young should not be on the Mets roster. He should not be starting games for them. He should not be hitting 6th for them. And he should damn well not be getting at bats in the 10th inning after the Mets just blew a 3-run lead in the 8th. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me where I am wrong about that. I don't know. I'm with you, man. I am with you there. Marte should have been in there. D-Rails, I think it's pressure to perform on a winning team. You mean with Alvy? Yeah. I mean, it's probably for all these young guys, and none of them are living up to the expectations at all. I mean, Mauricio looks horrible. Vientos had this season of his life last year. Didn't look good so far this year. Brett Beatty has been a bust since we called him in 22 and then has had his ups and downs. Alvarez is basically at this point, you call him a bust. He had 2023, 25 home runs. What has he done since then? Get injured, hit 220, and seemingly regressed defensively. Other than throwing out base runners, he doesn't block well. He's constantly got pass balls, and he's letting mental plays like this one tonight affect him and prevent him from making the correct decision. So, baby Mets, not looking so good right now. It's like when they talk about Jet Williams and when they talk about Drew Gilbert and Ryan Clifford and all the young position player Mets in their farm system right now, I always kind of just give it a shrug. And you could tell me they have a 1,000 OPS down in AAA. I don't care because I heard the same things about Brett Beatty and about Francisco. A flat circle for the Mets. They continue to get their ass beat in heartbreaking fashion down in Atlanta, seizing defeat from the jaws of victory every year, and they continue to trade away the wrong prospects and watch as theirs completely flop. It's just insane what is going on. Oh, God, let's see. Okay, Legend Off Gaming. Time to get Sandy Alcantara and Cedric Mullins. Okay, well, those are two bandied about names. A lot of fans want to see the Mets go after at this deadline. I just don't know. Is that going to solve all their problems? Cedric Mullins would be nice. You put him in center field, but damn, Tyrone Taylor, look at the game he had tonight and how well he's been playing. So, yeah, Tyrone Taylor's more of a 4th outfielder. I admit that. Cedric Mullins is an upgrade, but does he fix everything that's going on and wrong with this team right now? I don't know. And there's no one solution. So I hear you out on the Mullins deal. The Alcantara one, I've been on record. I don't want any part of. I'm not interested in Alcantara. In all honesty, I'd be more interested if the Rangers are going to trade Jacob deGrom. I'll take on the contract for deGrom, less prospects going back. I don't want to deal with Alcantara coming off Tommy John surgery and the way he has looked this year. I know he's got a more team-friendly deal, but it's going to cost far more in terms of prospect capital. I don't know if that's the right move. Even the deGrom one, I'm not crazy about. I was just giving an alternative. I'm not super crazy about Alcantara, but there's got to be moves to be made. Tonight, was just the complete opposite of what we got over the weekend versus the Rays. We got great starting pitching from David Peterson, who fizzled out in the 8th. Obviously, Reed Garrett couldn't shut the door there and get Ozuna to go. But, then the offense, 4 runs and kind of shut down after that. So different type of loss from the other day, from this weekend against Tampa Bay. But James, we are on board with you all the way, shaking my head. RMX Leo, I don't understand why Garrett didn't go with the sweeper away. I mean, that's a good call. I don't know why he didn't go with that either, right? He's got that nasty sweeper. I don't know the exact pitch, but I know it was kind of on the inner half of the plate. He started him 2-0. Then he busted him with a fastball inside that I was really shocked that Ozuna took. Maybe he didn't recognize it, thought it was going to be a cutter or something, or it was a cutter, and he was thinking fastball there. Then he fouls away a pitch, 2-2. Then I think he fouled away that pitch, that little foul tip to stay alive. And then I don't remember the final pitch of the at-bat where Ozuna hits the game-tying double. But the sweeper would have probably been the call. Try to get him to chase. But again, then it's bases loaded, and you're a pitch away from walking in a run. I guess that's a better alternative than, giving up the game-tying bases-clearing double. So I hear you on that, RMX. James Lee, please, Winker, come back. I'll take Vogel back over Young. All right, let's not get crazy. I guess I would take Vogel back over Jared Young. That's kind of saying something, right? Yeah, Winker needs to get back ASAP. The Mets need him so badly, and unfortunately, David Stern said over the weekend it doesn't sound like Jesse Winker is coming back anytime soon. He has not even had any type of inkling of a rehab assignment, so it does not sound good about Jesse Winker, and that's why I'm dead serious. The Mets need to go out and really consider getting a legitimate starter for this lineup at the trade deadline. I don't know what position. I personally would have been all over the Rafael Devers trade if that was possible. How crazy was that, by the way, right? What are the Red Sox doing? They got pennies on the dollar for him, and to trade him after being on a 4-game winning streak, that was very strange. Anyway, the Mets really need to consider getting a legit starting position player to put in this lineup every day, whether it is a third baseman and putting Vientos at DH, whether it's somebody in the outfield and moving Nimmo to DH or something like that. The Mets really need to consider doing it. I don't want any half measures at this trade deadline. I want the Mets to go all in. I want them to absolutely gut the farm system, but there's clearly a lack of a lot of things. From the position player standpoint, they're lacking that big RBI guy still. Even with Pete Soto, with Lindor, with Nimmo hitting mostly much better these days, they need one more bat like that. So I'd like to see that. I want a lefty reliever. Are the Boston Red Sox up for sale now? I kind of doubt it. I think they got rid of Devers because he was basically a cancer to the clubhouse at this point, but Aroldis Chapman would be perfect. And then a starting pitcher, like Logden said, Sandy Alcantara. I don't know, maybe Jacob deGrom returns, like a Tom Seaver hailing back to New York story. That would be cool, but there's definitely moves out there to be made, and the Mets really need to consider all of them. Because while I don't think the season is going through their fingertips at this point, okay? Don't believe that. I'm a little hyped up right now. It's getting to the point where if they continue to play the way they are, it could come a lot sooner than they realize, especially with these next 9 games, and especially the way they started this one off tonight, breathing some air into that Atlanta Braves clubhouse. And you know it. You know the Braves are in that clubhouse laughing and high-fiving and giggling. Oh, same old Mets. Same old Mets come down to Atlanta. Oh, who cares? They won that game last year, 161. They still can't get the job done against us in our park. You don't think they're feeling loose after that game? Thinking it's a 12-game lead, but it's not insurmountable. It's only June. The Mets better get their P's and Q's straight, or whatever the saying is, right? I don't know. Let's see. RMX Leo, another game I can't enjoy watching. I mean, I was for the first 7.5 innings. I was enjoying this game a lot. It was awesome. And then it just completely went to crap. Bases loaded, nobody out. Peterson gets yanked. Garrett with the most blue balls of all time, getting the first 2 outs of that 8th inning and then getting 2 strikes on Marcell Ozuna. Oh my God, the pain. Oh, the pain. It just never ends. It's just like you could put in a VHS tape of any game from 1997 on for the New York Mets playing in Atlanta, and it would be basically an exact copy of what we just watched here tonight in 2020. The Mets look like they have the game well in hand, only for the Braves to get every break, to create their own breaks. I'm not saying this was luck, but for the Mets to just totally throw up all over themselves and blow it and leave us feeling like idiots for thinking the Mets would pull it off. It's just always the case, it seems like. Oh, D-Rails, appreciate you, man. Stanley Babbage, would you trade for DeGrom? Yeah, I mean, I would, depending on like what the exchange is going to be. Let's take a look actually at Jacob DeGrom real quick. See what he's got as far as his contract left. I think he's probably got, what, 4 years left? No, not even, because it was a 5-year, $185 million deal with a 2028 mutual option. Okay, so he signed through, obviously, this season, 26 and 27. And I think it would put him at, let's take a look at what his Spotrax is, Jacob DeGrom. So DeGrom is due $37 million over 38. I'm sorry. The leftover of $40 million this year, $38 million next year, $27 million in, or I'm sorry, $37 million in 2027, and then a club and team mutual option of $20 million for 2028. So yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in trading for Jacob DeGrom if it like the deal makes sense. I don't really feel like trading a lot of prospects. I'd rather the Mets spend the cash. That's why I said I prefer him to Alcantara, who I think the Marlins will be more heavily seeking prospects because it's a really team-friendly deal for Sandy Alcantara. So for me, if Jacob DeGrom is available and, you know, Texas is looking more so to get out from under part or all of that contract, I'd probably be more soon pull the trigger on a deal to get Jacob DeGrom back in Queens than I would to try and get a guy like Alcantara that's got a lot of question marks still surrounding him after that Tommy John surgery. Drop a trade in the chat for me, guys. I want to hear from you. Let me know how you guys, who you think would be a good trade candidate. Ask me if you have any, and I'll give you my feedback. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think is the best move the Mets could make right now? The most important move that the Mets need to make right now to become contenders come July, come August, all of that. Let's see. James Lee says DeGrom would get injured flying to New York. Yeah, I know, right? DeGrom was kind of made out of glass there those last few years with us, and then obviously had to get TJ in 2023. Yeah, 23 with the Rangers his first year. But he's looking pretty solid this year, right? He's had some pretty good numbers so far this season. 2.19 ERA. That's a little better than all right. A lot better. 2.19 ERA and 14 starts over 82 innings. Jacob DeGrom is back, ladies and gentlemen. My goodness. Yeah, let's get it done. Come on, Stevie Cohen. Got to call up the Rangers. Call up Chris Young, their general manager. He's a former Met. I'm sure he'll be happy to help us out, right? You know, why not? That'd be awesome. But I don't know. I don't think the Mets are going blockbuster seeking with the starting pitching route. I'd like to see them do it for a position player. Rafi Devers could have been that guy. But that's obviously not going to happen anymore. And with him in San Francisco, I kind of like the Devers trade for the Giants for one reason. I don't like it because it just makes the Giants better. And they've had a surprising year so far. And if the Mets don't turn their act around, they might be competing for a wild card spot instead of the National League East title. But I do like that Devers to the Giants hopefully puts a little more pressure on those other NL West teams so that they keep cannibalizing each other with the Dodgers and with the Padres and all that. We all know they get lucky to play the Rockies 10 to 15 times a year, but hopefully with Devers now in San Francisco, they just continue to feast on each other out in the National League West. But that's kind of me being, I guess, a little hopeful about it. Logged Off Gaming says JD Martinez is still out there. LOL. JD Martinez became a professional pickleball player. I don't know if you know that, but yeah, JD Martinez is part of a professional pickleball league right now. So I don't know if he is available, but I'm sure he would trade in the paddle for a bat. Yeah, JD he had a decent season for his role with the Mets last year. You know, the left-handed platoon DH bat hitting against left-handers. 16 or 17 homers, I think it was, but you could tell that JD was kind of done. Bat speed was gone. You know, JD didn't look like the young major leaguer that, you know, defied odds after Houston gave up on him and all that. But let's see. James says maybe add JD for a few months. Okay, well, if you guys are both saying it, then maybe they should really consider bringing JD Martinez back because, yeesh, things are not looking good right now. The only problem with bringing JD is you already have Winker, who, when he comes back, hopefully soon, is essentially a DH. You got Starling Marte, who's played the field, I think, only one time this year. I don't know if adding JD Martinez is a great option as far as their defensive versatility, but at this point, just get a guy that can hit. Get a professional up there. Don't give me any more Jared Young. I'm done with Jared Young. This is ridiculous. I can't believe he's still on the roster. I mean, what the hell are we doing? We can't find anybody better down in AAA. We can't find anybody better off the streets right now. I mean, there's got to be somebody that can put up a more professional at bat than Jared Young. Okay, I don't know. I don't know why Mendoza would let him hit in the 10th inning tonight to lead off of all things. Like, I guess he's a lefty. You're hoping at the very worst he chops the ball to the right side, moves the runner over. Nah. And 3-pitch strikeout. Feeble looking 3-pitch strikeout. Just brutal. Don't know what they were doing there. Ben Early. Why do we have a designated hitter who can't hit? Man, I don't know. The DH position is not the same as it used to be, right? Like, it doesn't need to be a 40 home run bat anymore, but Mets are trotting out there. It's just ridiculous. I mean, just horrible. Dude was 0 for 4 today, 3 strikeouts, including the big one in the 10th. I just don't get it. I just don't get why this dude is on the roster, never mind hitting in that spot right. So bad. Stanley, will Stearns be busy at the trade deadline? He better be. That's all I got to say. He better be, because there's some holes on this team. McGill goes on the IL today with elbow inflammation, which basically tells me like it's going to hopefully get a little better or he'll need Tommy John surgery. You got Manaya and Montas, who have been struggling in their minor league assignments. You got Griffin Canning, who's been roughed up in his 2 previous starts now. Kodai Senga on the injured list, out for the next probably 4 weeks, maybe 5. So starting pitching definitely needs to be a priority. Not saying it needs to be big game hunting, but they definitely need at least one more starter. Maybe it is one big name and then one more kind of like that Trevor Williams type of swingman that the Mets acquired a couple years ago. But they definitely, in my opinion, should be looking at getting a starting pitcher or a starting position player as well. I am totally on board with handing the reins of designated hitter to Mark Vientos and getting a legitimate third baseman for this team. I don't know who that is, though, if I'm being honest. I don't know who's selling right now that has a legit third base bat. Ryan McMahon with the Rockies is one that comes to mind. You know, he's not an absolute slugger, but in his career has always been a really solid hitter. That would be somebody I'd be pretty interested in if we're talking about putting him as the starting third baseman and then making Vientos the DH. Beatty, right back to AAA where you belong. I think that makes this team a lot better. But I do think the Mets definitely need to be seeking a legitimate starting player for the everyday lineup. And then, of course, we know the bullpen needs help. It cannot be Reed Garrett and Brazabon every single night. AJ Minter is gone for the year. Young is gone for the year. It cannot be Brazabon and Reed Garrett pitching 90 innings in the regular season and expecting their arms to hold up in October in the postseason, should we be fortunate enough to get it. So I think that Stearns definitely needs to be busy at the trade deadline. Jeremy McDaniels' team always loses to the Braves no matter what. Yep, that's right. Always in the most painful of fashions too, right? 2 outs, 2 strikes, 4-1 lead in the 8th inning. Just an inch away from escaping that jam and boop, pull the rug right out from under us. And then only make it worse, Pete Alonso 5 feet away from hitting a 2-run homer in the 9th. Not only does Acuna make a brilliant catch up against the fence, but Juan Soto gets doubled off. Just absolute pain. We know this is what we know as Mets fans. This is what I've done for 30 years. 30 years. Oh, everyday Mets, Eugenio Suarez. By the way, welcome everyday Mets. Appreciate you tuning in. Eugenio Suarez is an interesting one because the Diamondbacks are underachieving. They lost Corbin Burns for the year to Tommy John. They just lost their closer for the year. And Eugenio Suarez, not a guy, I'll be honest, that I've really ever truly liked all that much. But he is a massive upgrade over the guys that we are trotting out there right now, whether it is third base or if it is that designated hitter. So, yeah, that's somebody I would be kind of interested in. Let me pull up his stats real quick. Let's see if I no. Okay, so we're in the process working on the stream a little more. 2 new things that are coming. Discord is officially coming. I know I've said it forever. It's actually coming now. And 2, I'll be able to share my screen with you guys now. So you'll be able to see everything that I'm taking a look at. You guys bring up Eugenio Suarez. I'll show you his stats. Have a little box with me down in the bottom. That way you don't have to look at my ugly mug and these horrible, terrible highlights here to my right. So Eugenio Suarez this year with the Diamondbacks so far has a 233 batting average, 307 OBP, but OPS is 834. He's hit 21 bombs. He's driven in 57 RBI. He's going to be a hot commodity at the trade deadline this year, no doubt. There are going to be a lot of teams interested in Eugenio Suarez if the Diamondbacks continue to fall further and further in the National West. I'm going to pull up those standings actually right now. Dodgers are leading it, ahead of the Giants by 2.5, ahead of the Padres by 4, and the D-backs are actually at 500, 36 and 36. They're 7.5 games back of the West, but in terms of the NL wild card, they can't be all too far behind that final spot. They have the logjam ahead of them in their own division, though, so they all are assuming those spots. In the wild card, the D-backs are 1.5. They're 3.5 games back of the final wild card spot, but with 4 teams ahead of them. So it's Phillies, first spot in the wild card. Then it goes Giants, Padres. They're all in the playoffs as of now. Then you have the Brewers, Reds, and the Cardinals all ahead of the D-backs, who are 3.5 games back of that final wild card spot. So, I mean, there's a good chance that the Diamondbacks are selling at the trade deadline for sure, just because of how many teams are in front of them, because of how good their division is, and because they lost their front line ace starting pitcher in Corbin Burns for the year and their closer last week. So, yeah, Eugenio Suarez is not a bad suggestion at all, everyday Mets. I like it. Pirates always selling. Maybe we can get Paul Skeens. Oh my God, I would love that. Logged Off Gaming wants Paul Skeens. They're not going to trade him. I mean, I would love it. Every team would love it. Every team will be knocking on their door as soon as there's a first kind of indication that the Pirates are going to trade him, but I don't think it's going to be this year. I think at the very earliest, maybe next year's trade deadline, but even then, it will still only have been his 3rd season. The Pirates will still have 4 years of control of him left, and we know that owner just loves to sell out the seats at the stadium. That's what Paul Skeens does. He doesn't care about the team winning. He just cares about the ticket, box office, getting people in, selling merch, and that's what Paul Skeens does. So I think they're going to ride that cash cow for as long as they can, and then they'll finally trade him. And like I've been on record saying in the past, they will fumble all of the prospects that they get back in the trade pack for him. Rinse and repeat with the Pittsburgh Pirates, but that would be pretty friggin' sweet if they got Paul Skeens. Here's the problem. Paul Skeens could have done exactly what David Peterson did tonight. Paul Skeens could have pitched 7 innings of 1-run ball. The Mets still lost this game. It was partly on David Peterson for loading the bases in the 8th with nobody out, yeah. But you have Reed Garrett come in, very nearly escaped that jam. 1 strike away, 1 inch away. And then in the 9th inning, 4 base running from Juan Soto. In the 10th inning, just horrible plate appearances from Mauricio, from Jared Young, and from Francisco Alvarez. And then a defensive miscue from Alvarez behind the plate. So you could get Paul Skeens, but he is not the solution to all of the Mets' problems. And there is no one guy that is the solution to all of the Mets' issues right now. But I think the Mets definitely need to be thinking quantity and filling a bunch of different areas of need rather than just selling out for the number 1 starting pitcher available on the trade market. If they could do that without gutting the system and still fill in some of those other areas of need, then I'm game for it. But we'll see how this deadline plays out. Let's see, Ben Early. Good to see Tyrone Taylor contributing tonight. Hell yeah, man. Ben, Tyrone Taylor, like one of the most under the radar Mets in such a long time. The dude just makes winning plays every single day. He may not always hit a home run and have 3 RBIs like he did tonight, but he'll have brilliant catches in the outfield. He'll have an outfield assist. He'll use his speed on the base paths to, impact the opposing pitchers and defense. Tonight, he has the 3 RBIs, including a homer. Love to see it. Love Tyrone Taylor. That's why people say, oh, Cedric Mullins. And I'm like, yeah, would be okay with that. But how much of an upgrade is he truly over Tyrone Taylor? I mean, he is at what cost, though? Like, what type of prospects are going back in a deal for Cedric Mullins? And don't get me wrong, Taylor absolutely does fit the billing of a fourth outfielder more than he does as a starting center fielder, but the Mets are by no means being hurt by Taylor playing every day in center field. In fact, I say they're a really good team defensively up the middle because of him, and he's always giving you a professional at bat. So love Tyrone Taylor. Really good to see. I'm totally with you there. Stanley Babbage says Duran and Chapman from Boston. Okay, so this is the one that we've heard so much about. We heard that the Red Sox would be potentially interested in trading Jared Duran if their season wouldn't turn around. Now, mind you, I think they won again tonight. Let me check that for us. No, they are losing 8-0, so their 4 or 5 game winning streak is probably coming to an end tonight, but they're playing better baseball. They're over 500. They're not terribly far out of the AL East or the wild card. So I'm not sold on the Red Sox being sellers just because they shipped off Rafael Devers. I think it's because he was basically a cancer to the clubhouse at this point. That's why they decided to move on for him. But if they do decide to trade Jared Duran, would he be a good fit for the Mets? This year has a Baseball Reference, making it so difficult. Here's the thing about Jared Duran. I like him. He had a really good year last year. He's not really having such a good year this year. He's got a 740 OPS, a 106 OPS plus. His average is 264. He's got 5 homers and 38 ribbies. I mean, last year, 21 homers, 75 ribbies, a 342 on base percentage, and an 834 OPS. And that was almost exactly what he did the previous year as well, except a lot more home runs in 24 than he hit in 23. So it's a down year for Jared Duran, and he is under contract for this season and with an option for 2026. That is based on something about Baseball Reference is wrong here, because it must have been an arbitration. I don't know why there's a team option for 26, because it had to have been his arbitration for that. I don't know why it says that, but it does say he's not a free agent until 2029. So I don't know what the deal is there, because he debuted in 2021. I don't know. Something about Baseball Reference has got me thrown off here. Let me look up Spotrax. To give you my opinion on it, though, I would be interested in Jared Duran, the player. It depends on the price. And based on how he's playing this year, he's not doing what he did last year or even in 2023. So I'm not totally selling out for this guy just because people are really hyped about him. So, okay. He's an unrestricted free agent in 29. He's got a club option for next year, which was negotiated into his arbitration. I guess they bought out these next 2 years, and then he has arbitration for 2027 and 2028 when he's 30 and 31 years old. So, look, honestly, if you ask me, I feel like Jared Duran is kind of like a Brandon Nimmo copy. But I honestly think that Nimmo's just as good, if not better. I mean, Nimmo probably not at this stage in his career, but when Nimmo was in his prime, that's exactly what you want Jared Duran to be. And right now, Duran's not doing that. So to go out and try to have to trade for him, I think it's going to be too high, too rich of an asking price for me. But if they have a trade and, you have an offer that you want to present to me, I'll give you my full opinion. I know I'm kind of like hugging the fence right now on it. Let's see. But Chapman, yes, to answer your question, Stanley, love the idea of getting Aroldis Chapman. Not sure if he'll be available. Again, depends on how the Sox play for the next month and a half or so before the deadline. But if he becomes available, David Stearns better be the first caller, and he better get a deal done, because the Mets need some high leverage arms in the back of that bullpen ASAP Rocky. Logged Off Gaming, Mets get Steve Matz back. Oh, I don't know. He says he's just kidding. Okay, good. Yeah, I don't even know where is he with St. Louis still, Steven Matz? I don't even know where he is. You hear Mookie? Mookie's pretty pissed about this Mets game too. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Real quick, I'm gonna just take a look at some of the bottom division teams right now. MLB standings. Let's see who else, because we know obviously the Pirates are out of it. We know the Rockies are out of it. We know Marlins are pretty much out of it, although Nationals are about to lose their 10th straight game, so they may actually be in last place, the seller of the National League East, before tomorrow's over. They're actually only separated by a winning percentage at this point. And then you have Diamondbacks fringe sellers. The Reds are 3 games over 500, but they're 4th in the division. They're just barely ahead of where the Diamondbacks are in terms of the NL wild card. So I don't know. There's just not a lot of sellers in the National League right now. American League, the Orioles, 10 games under 500, playing a little bit of better baseball lately, but they're probably going to be selling off veteran pieces from that team. So that's where the Cedric Mullins idea comes from. They don't have any starting pitching for us. That would be of interest to the Mets. Then you have the White Sox, who are going to assuredly be selling. They are 27 games under 500. The Royals actually just came out this week, and it was told from the owner to their general manager to consider trading off any veteran pieces on the team. So one that immediately comes to mind, and I want to hear from you guys, what do you think about this? We're talking about a reunion with Jacob deGrom, but maybe we should be talking about a reunion with Seth Lugo. Try that one on for size. I think that could be pretty interesting, and at half the cost of an Alcantara or of a Jacob deGrom or of any of those other high-priced named starting pitchers on the market. I might really, actually, the more I'm thinking about it, the Mets trading for Seth Lugo would be, I think, a really solid move to solidify this starting rotation, give him the chance that the Mets, for whatever reason, never wanted to give him in their rotation. I think that might work. Let's take a look. What has Seth Lugo been doing so far this year? 25 Royals. I'm going to skim through the rest of their roster. What else they got on here? So Seth Lugo so far this year for the Royals has a 3.18 ERA in 12 innings. He has tossed 70 and 2/3 innings. Bad whip is 1.14. His FIP is pretty high though, 4.78. So maybe fence merchant, or maybe just from pitching in good parks that are favoring him. I don't know, but I might be interested in Seth Lugo. He is 35 years old now, and he is signed through the end of this year. There's a player option for next season. So I don't know how Lugo left things with the Mets when he departed in free agency for Kansas City, but be interesting to see if one, he'd be like accepting of a trade back to the Mets, and then how he would negotiate and deal with his player option for 2026. But that would be a pretty solid addition to kind of balance this rotation, get it a little back on its right on the right course. But let's take a look real quick at the rest of the 2025 Royals, see if there's any names we could pick from that might be helpful to. Oh, this Bobby Witt Jr. guy is pretty good. Have you heard of this guy? He's got some pretty solid numbers. Maybe we package Beatty and Acuna. Get Bobby Witt Jr. How do you guys feel about that? Drop a reaction in the chat, right? That would be a steal for the Royals, I think, right? He's probably not that good. Can you imagine? Oh my, Bobby Witt Jr. coming in the Mets. We'd have to stick him at third base. Although he's much younger than Francisco Lindor, and he's probably equally as good of a fielder. So maybe it'd be like, oh, sorry, Frankie, we're going to push you over to third base. The A-Rod Jeter situation from years ago with the Yankees. Maikel Garcia, their young third baseman, he's not going anywhere, but he's probably one of their hitters in the lineup. But young up-and-coming dude, he's 25 years old. He ain't going anywhere. Anybody else on the roster? Evers is probably what I should be more looking at. Salvador Perez is a potential DH option. The ageless Salvador Perez? Not really. 635 OPS, OPS plus 78. Nah. No, thank you. Not interested. Hunter Renfroe. Horrible numbers. Wow. Hunter Renfroe has a 483 OPS and a OPS plus of 37. So, I think we could get that out of Jared Young for free right now. So, I mean, at the cost of our mental sanity that Jared Young is on this team. Don't understand that, but as far as the relievers, and then I'll come back to here and we can wrap things up. Any relievers on the Royals roster that may be of interest? They have a young man, 28 years old, Daniel Lynch the fourth, a left-hander, has a 2.20 ERA in 32 and 2/3 innings so far. So I don't know anything about the guy. To be honest, I never heard of Daniel Lynch the fourth, but he's a free agent in 29, so probably going to be a little expensive if the Mets were actually looking into getting a guy like that with that many years of control. But yeah, I mean, look, I don't think it needs to be big game hunting for the Mets, but they have a couple of things on their checklist that they should be looking to fix heading into the second half of the season. And I'm a believer it doesn't need to be at the trade deadline. Like, it doesn't all need to happen the week of or an hour before or the minute of the final seconds before the deadline like the Mets did in 2015 with Yoenis Cespedes, right? Like, these little moves can be made along the way. There's nothing stopping the Mets from going out and getting a guy that can take Jared Young's role on this team. The problem is with Siri going down as early as he did, Winker going down now for an extended period of time. Those two guys are on major league deals. There's no putting them down into AAA. So anybody that the Mets would look to acquire at this point needs to be with the consideration that they may not be on the roster the entire year. Fred Beatty, Ronnie Mauricio, both candidates for me that need to be considered going back to AAA. The same for Luis Angel Acuna, though I will definitely miss his speed and defensive ability late in games. But the Mets have a lot of different areas of need as we head and hurl toward the second half of the season. We are almost at the halfway mark, and unfortunately, the Mets are really, really falling flat on their face here as we get to that point in the season. So, guys, okay, you know what? It's been about an hour now, so I think we are going to wrap things up. Before I do, let's take a quick preview of tomorrow. And this is really, in my opinion, why tonight's game was so important for the Mets to win, especially when they were leading as late as they were in this one, because you had your ace on the mound in Peterson pitching into the eighth. Meanwhile, tomorrow, with Kodai Senga officially on the injured list, pitching in his place is Paul Blackburn. And who is he taking on? No other than the man that the Braves rearranged their starting rotation to make sure that he faces us not only in this series, but also in the next series next week at Citi Field, and that is Chris Sale, who the Mets could not touch last year in his near, or did he win the Cy Young last year? I can't remember, but either way, the Mets could not touch Chris Sale last year. So that is why getting tonight's game hurts so much. Not getting it really kills you, because you are staring down the barrel of potentially just getting dominated tomorrow with Blackburn on the mound, with Chris Sale opposing him. And then you head into Thursday. If you lose tomorrow, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself, okay? I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch, but potentially looking at a sweep if you lose tomorrow's game. So, boys, ladies, gentlemen, kids of all ages, it was a tough night for the Mets for sure. Very disappointed. Feel like this was therapeutic for me. I hope it was for you guys too. I appreciate all you guys tuning in. Why do we always pick the worst managers? Robert Groth says, Mendy's mostly good. He's usually good. Tonight was a bad night for Carlos Mendoza, if you ask me. Not having the guy warmed up for Peterson at the first sign of trouble. Letting Jared Young hit there in the 10th inning. Two crucial mistakes that I think are inexcusable. But usually I pretty much am on Mendoza's side. But tonight he really did not have a good game at all from the bench. So anyway, we're going to wrap this up. I appreciate all you guys tuning in. Nico, Earl, Stanley, James, Irv, D-Rels, Logged Off Gaming, RMX Leo, Stanley Babbage, if I didn't already say it, Jeremy McDonald's, Everyday Mets, Ben Early, and finally Robert Groh here with the buzzer beater. Robert Groth, sorry, Robert. The buzzer, Robert Groth. Very nice. Guys, if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. I do daily Mets content and post-game recaps after every single Mets games, even crap shows like tonight where they blow it in the 8th. Again, the final score, the Braves walk the Mets off in 10 by a final of 5-4, but we will be right back at it tomorrow right here on my channel. So be sure to subscribe. Be sure to leave this stream a like. I appreciate it so much. We will be back tomorrow, hopefully with a much, much happier post-game stream. But until then, I am Tony Metro. Stay true to the orange and blue.